Today I'm bringing you a taste of Italy with a creamy roasted tomato soup and homemade Italian breadsticks. Not only is this soup incredibly satisfying, but it's full of nutrients that are great for your body. And who knows, after trying this soup, Nonna might forgive you for going vegan. We're making homemade Italian breadsticks that are perfectly crispy, seasoned with fragrant herbs and spices, and are the perfect dipping vessel for this savory soup. Let's get cooking! First, we're gonna start by preparing the dough for our breadsticks. Here I have 90 milliliters of lukewarm water. I'm going to add in 2 grams of active dry yeast, and a pinch of sugar. Gently stir that together. Stir it until the yeast dissolves in the water. In a mixing bowl, add in 120 grams of Tipo 00 flour. Then we can add the yeast and water. Mix this with a paddle attachment until it's combined. Then add in 1 teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil. Then switch to a dough hook and allow it to work the dough for a couple of minutes. So you'll see we have a very wet and sticky dough. With the spatula, remove it from the mixing bowl onto a cutting board. With a bench scraper, we're going to fold the dough onto itself 4 times. With the bench scraper, pick up the dough ball and put it in a lightly greased mixing bowl. Now you can cover the bowl with some plastic wrap and allow it to rise in a warm room for about 1 hour. So this is the base of our tomato soup. In this baking sheet, I have 1 large onion chopped into chunks, 2 carrots, 4 cloves of garlic, 2 peeled potatoes, which are gonna give our soup that extra creaminess. I'm using about 50 grape tomatoes. You can use any type of tomatoes that you have. If you're using regular tomatoes, use about 4 medium-sized tomatoes or 3 large tomatoes. Just make sure to cut them into quarters. I'm gonna drizzle some olive oil over the top of the vegetables and sprinkle some salt. We're going to stir it lightly. We're gonna bake this in the oven at 475 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 30 minutes until the tomatoes have blistered. Now the vegetables have roasted and they smell delicious. Don't be tempted to eat them because we gotta take them over to the stove. Turn your stove on to a medium-high heat and drizzle some olive oil into a large pot. When the oil is hot, add in the vegetables. Make sure to include all of the juices from the pan. Sauté this for about 5 minutes. Then add in some salt and black pepper and 900 milliliters of vegetable broth. Reduce the heat to medium and allow this to simmer for 20 to 30 minutes until the potatoes are soft. My dough has risen for an hour and you can see that it's doubled in size. It's time to unwrap it. I'm going to lightly dust my cutting board. Remove the dough and place it in the center of the cutting board. Lightly dust the dough and the rolling pin. I'm going to roll out the dough to about the size of my baking sheet. The baking sheet I'm using is 9 by 12 inches. I lightly greased my baking sheet with olive oil and I'm now going to transfer the dough onto the baking sheet. Press the dough into the edges. I'm going to brush this with some olive oil. Cover this with plastic wrap and let it rise for another hour. Let's check on the soup. The potatoes are now soft and we're gonna turn off the heat. Stir in 8 leaves of basil. I'm going to puree this with an immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can transfer this into a regular blender and blend it up until it's smooth. The soup is now ready. I'm not ready to serve it yet, so I'm gonna leave it on the stove. Before serving it, just heat it up for another 10 minutes. My dough is now finished rising in the pan and I'm gonna brush some more olive oil on top. On half of the dough, I'm gonna put some rosemary and red pepper flakes. On the other half, I'm gonna put some fennel seeds that I lightly crushed with a mortar and pestle. You can flavor these with whatever spices you want. Sometimes I've also put garlic or olives. With a bench scraper, I'm going to cut this into 20 equal strips. I'm going to generously dust the cutting board with semolina flour. With each piece of dough, I'm going to gently stretch and twist it. Stretch them to about the width of a large baking sheet. Then we're going to dust it with the semolina flour. Now you can transfer it onto the baking sheet. We can now put it in the oven that's been preheated to 355 degrees. Let these bake for about 15 to 20 minutes or until they're golden. That's delicious. Roasting the vegetables makes this rich, tangy, and sweet with a deep umami flavor. The breadsticks are crispy and fragrant with a warm aroma of spices that complements the soup perfectly. Mamma mia, what a great meal. With a little creativity and some plant-based ingredients, you can recreate all of your favorite dishes, even the ones Nonna used to make. If you liked today's recipe, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to keep up with all of my latest videos. Don't forget to check out earth2rocco.com where you can find the ingredients and instructions for today's recipes. Ciao!